close your eyes. Tonight, we're stepping into an enchanted forest, a place where time slows down and the shadows hold ancient secrets. This is the tale of Jorinda and Jorindel, a story of love tested by a terrible curse and the profound power of a long, lonely quest. Let the quiet rhythm of the woods guide you toward rest. In a land of ancient forests lived a maiden named Jorinda and a youth named Jorindel. Their love was a perfect harmony, and they were promised to each other. Their greatest joy was walking together in the sun-dappled woods, dreaming of their future. But they knew to stay far away from a ruined castle deep in the trees, home to a terrible sorceress. Her magic was cruel. She could lure any soul into her domain, transform any maiden into a nightingale, and turn any man to stone. One beautiful golden evening, lost in conversation, Jorinda and Jorindel wandered too far. A profound silence fell over the forest. The usual chirping and rustling stopped. The air grew heavy. With a cold dread, they realized they were standing right beneath the witch's castle. Jorinda tried to sing to calm her nerves, but no sound came out. She couldn't move. Jorindel reached for her, but he too was paralyzed, frozen in an icy stillness. Suddenly, a voice, old and horribly strong, hissed from the darkness. The sorceress appeared, her face a map of wrinkles, her eyes glowing with malevolent fire. She grabbed with a single word of powerful magic. Jorinda was no longer a maiden, but a tiny, dark-feathered nightingale, singing a single, heartbreaking note. The sorceress placed the bird in a cage and carried her away. Forced to watch, Jorindel was still frozen, unable to move or cry out. The witch laughed a dry, rattling laugh and spoke a second spell. Jorindel was transformed, not into stone, but into a solitary shepherd, his name and memories stripped away. The spell broke only when the sorceress was gone. Jorindel, now a shepherd, was left alone, his mind reeling, his heart hollowed by loss. He didn't remember his old life, only an agonizing certainty that something precious had been stolen from him. His love for Jorinda became a deep, wordless ache. He couldn't return to his village. His fate was tied to the castle, so he settled at the edge of the forbidden forest. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, and months into silent years. Jorindel's life became a routine of endless waiting. He would sit beneath the trees, watching the castle, playing a sorrowful, yearning melody on his flute. His only companions were the stars and the sheep he tended. He observed the cycles of the forest, noticing the smallest details, the moss, the wind, the insects. His focus was absolute, driven by a deep love he could not name, but only feel. One night, Jorindel dreamed. It was a revelation. He saw a single, exquisite flower, its petals a rich crimson red, with a single, enormous pearl, pulsing with light in its center. He awoke, knowing this flower was his quest. It held the power to break the witch's spell. Jorindel abandoned his flock. With only his flute and his resolve, he set off into the vast, unknown forest, guided by the memory of his dream. He traveled through thorny thickets, across roaring rivers, and over jagged mountains. Years passed. The sun and wind weathered his face, turning him into a man of quiet, powerful purpose. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he found a hidden glade, and there, in its heart, was the miraculous flower from his dream. It glowed from within, its crimson petals surrounding a luminous pearl. Reverently, he plucked it and placed it in a soft leather pouch. The time had come to face the sorceress. Jorindel returned to the ruined castle. The same suffocating silence, an invisible wall of dread met him, but this time he carried the flower's power. Holding it tightly, he approached the gate. The wall of thorns did not appear. The witch, perched at a window, began a hypnotic, terrifying song meant to paralyze him. Jorindel felt his body grow heavy, but he held the flower up. Its crimson petals pulsed, and the pearl emitted a silent counterspell. The witch's song lost its power. He pushed open the massive gate and entered the courtyard. The sorceress shrieked in rage, throwing curses and spells at him. But the flower's light created a perfect shield. Nothing could touch him. Jorindel entered the castle, the air thick with dust and despair. He began his search through the vast, echoing chambers. He found the room where the cages were stored. It was a massive, circular chamber with 7,000 cages lining the walls. Each held a tiny nightingale, their collective, sorrowful singing a chorus of captured despair. Which one was Jorinda? He walked to the first cage and gently touched its bars with the crimson petals. In an instant, the nightingale transformed back into a young woman, her eyes wide with wonder. Jorindel worked tirelessly, moving from cage to cage, his heart heavy with the scale of the sorceress's evil. He freed one maiden after another, his process methodical and patient. Hours later, only one cage remained. The nightingale inside was smaller, and its song held a heartbreaking quality that resonated deep within his ancient love. He knew. He held the flower to the bars of the final cage. As the crimson light touched the feathers, a familiar golden light filled the air. The nightingale transformed back into Jorinda, his beloved. Her face was etched with the pain of her long imprisonment, but her eyes shone with pure, immediate recognition. They rushed together, embracing after centuries of separation. The spell was finally broken. Seeing her last prisoner freed, the sorceress screamed a final, terrible shriek. The castle ruins collapsed into dust, and the malevolent silence was replaced by the joyous singing of the freed maidens. Jorinda and Jorindel led them out of the rubble and back into the forest. They returned to the village and rebuilt their lives, their love made stronger and more enduring by the impossible trial they had overcome. The deep power of a promise kept, and the courage found in a heart driven by true love, will always overcome the longest of shadows. Allow the peaceful resolution of this tale to settle over you now. You are safe. You are strong. Drift into a deep, perfect rest. Sleep well, and dream only of eternal light.